I'm dead. I have to be dead. Like, I must have got hit by an IED. And then the deepest sorrow I'd ever experienced in my entire life exploded from the inside of me. And I started to just feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I'm still just a kid and my life is over. I never lived deliberately. I had no idea what that was. And it was almost like a panic, like it's over. And I never really ever understood the miracle of 50, 60 trillion cells make up a human body. And so I'm like going through this, honestly, almost like a spiritual death due to my lack of awareness. And then I start to see my family members and I start to see like my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I failed. And I'm like seeing my girlfriend. I'm like, I'm so sorry I failed you. I'm a pile of guts on the floor in Iraq. I died. I'm sorry.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. Got my guest back with me here, Mr. Byron Rogers, Sir Byron Rogers. I don't know if you can see that at the bottom of your screen or not, but that's what I'm seeing on mine. And if you remember from yesterday's episode, we're talking about a man who went into the Marine Corps right out of high school, did 2 deployments to Iraq, was involved in 5 IED explosions. Only by the grace of God is he here talking to us today. We talked about his Marine Corps occupation and when he came out. Now, he's got a book out. And of course, my iPad just went dead on me here. Let me pull this up because the book, we're going to talk about this at the end, but this is his book, Finding Meaning After the Military. Okay, and I read this book over the last couple of days here. It's very motivational. Would you say a self-help book, Byron?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would call it, because it's really designed for people who are going through transition, primarily aimed at veterans here in the 1st Civilian Division, but really for anybody who's dealing with a large enough transition that it impacts their identity. Like, this is all I know. This is who I am. This is who I've been for 30 years. These types of identity time seasonal changes,
Well, and it makes you, like we talked about at the very beginning of the episode yesterday, you come out of the military, and it's not just you, it's all our military veterans who have been combat vets. They come out, they've been running and gunning in war zones around the world if it's during wartime. And there's really no transition that the military service puts you guys through, is it? It's just like, thank you very much. Here's your honorable discharge. We'll see you when we see you. Sit tight.
Well, yeah, kind of, basically. I mean, you're processing out, you're turning in your gear. You have what I was in, I believe it's called TAMPS or something, where you learn a little bit of how to write a resume and a little bit of how to do a little bit of this and that. Don't beat your wife, don't kick your dog. And then, but the one thing that they did do that I was kind of worried about, which was kind of, interesting, as I remember when I was getting out, I think this was when I got back from Iraq, and they were talking about, PTSD and do you have PTSD and all this stuff. And I remember having a conversation with a counselor that was like, are you sure you don't have PTSD? You get paid for the rest of your life if you have PTSD. And I remember being like, no, I don't have PTSD. I am perfectly fine. I remember being like, no. I had to literally say, no, I'm not. And they're like, you get paid for the rest of your life. I'm like, I know, and no. And I think a lot of that contributes to the some of the negative impacts in the veteran community. I'm a black man. I've had to fight being told I was a victim my whole life by other black people. It really reminded me the same thing. I was like, no, I'm not a victim, and I don't got PTSD. Maybe I do. But that's between me and God. We're finna work it out. I don't want your money or your blanket with smallpox. But anyways, so I don't know. I have long answers when it comes to this, but
That's
there's
right.
no formal, effective, healthy training that helps guys go from super high pinnacle, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have your needs met. You have your food, shelter, social belonging, all these different things. You kind of have all that when you're in your platoon, when you're in the Marine Corps. And then all of a sudden that pyramid gets flipped over on its head. And next thing you know, you're sitting there and you're like, well, geez, I guess I'm going to go work at Payless because I don't know how to transition a lot of this. So, yeah,
Well, did you have any job prospects when you came out? Did you have any idea what you wanted to do?
well, I mean,
You talked about wanting to go to college. Now you got the VA. Is that right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you 4 years in to change up a little bit, you change your tune a little bit. And I remember when I got out, I knew I still needed to go to college. The conversation around college was I had done most everything. I wasn't afraid of anything. I remember coming out being like, well, golly, I hadn't been to war. I ain't really too afraid of nothing yet. And what else can I do? What's the next adventure? Eventually I arrived at, you need to go back to school because you were so scared of school that you ran to the military because you just couldn't bear to sit in a classroom for another 10 minutes. You're about to kill yourself. So I ran, so I went to the Marine Corps. So I came back, I got my master's, and got those degrees. But by the grace of God, and it's another period where God really showed up for me, was getting out of the Marine Corps and getting into executive protection and private security at one of the highest levels, um, as a walk-on at 21 years old. There was just no other way for it to have happened. I can't take credit for it. I was praying. I heard his voice. He told me, go bounce at Hennessy's Tavern. You're going to become a bodyguard. You're going to travel the world. I walk out of my living room. I see my girlfriend. I'm excited. She's like, what's wrong? Because remember, I was scared. I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I can hold a gun. Maybe I go do like some dying corpse, mercenary stuff, some black water. Maybe I'll become a cop. Who knows? But I didn't know what I was going to do. And sure enough, man, I prayed. I heard his voice. I go bounce at this bar. Random, not so random guy comes up to me and is like, hey, go get these 2 permits. Give me a call back in 2 weeks. I'll show you how to make a lot more money doing what you're doing. After he questioned me for a few minutes. And I blink, and I'm on one of the most highly traveled executive protection details, hitting 50, 60 countries a year at 21.
Wow.
Growing up in this game. Yeah.
Wow. In your book, you talk about, I don't know if it was you specifically, but a lot of veterans come back from combat. They're coming back to the civilian life, getting out of the military, and they think, man, look what I've been through. Life's going to be easy now. That's a big misconception, isn't it?
Yeah, life's super interesting. And I like to say that most men can handle adversity. If you really want to see someone's true nature, give him power, give him ease, right? I'm with Viktor Frankl. I think there should be a statue of responsibility on the West Coast to balance out the Statue of Liberty. Freedom without responsibility is always death. And so you lower your guard. People lower their guard about the battle necessary to be victorious in life. That everything's moving towards entropy, right? You don't just get fit, stay fit. You need to work towards this thing or you will turn into a marshmallow. You know what I mean? Like, you might be skinny fat, you're still inside, you'll still just, and so everything in life is this way. And without deliberation and awareness and stepping into these battlefields, you will not win, So a lot of guys just give into this life of ease and they need to work like all heck to find their new fight, find a new worthy cause to pour themselves into, find a new place of service that will help them unlock a level of honor and respect by the grace of God before the atrophy of identity starts to set in, that identity of who they were, who they're not.
So you're being a bodyguard all over the world. And what I read in your book, these are some extremely wealthy people. It's probably, I'm guessing, some high profile people. You don't identify anybody for obvious reasons. But along that way, I remember reading, I think you were sitting at a cafe in Paris close to the Eiffel Tower when a dose of reality just kind of came along and smacked you on top of the head.
Yeah. The difference between strength and power. This was like a massive lesson that I learned in my life that helped me. And I remember sitting there at the foot of the Eiffel Tower with my buddies. And this is a good group of dudes, man. I got SEALs, I got Marine Corps recon guys. I got Konstantin Konstantinovs, one of the world's top power lifters on the planet. God rest his soul. He was like one of my big brothers in the industry, taught me the ways, but I mean, he's a 270-pound mutant. And I'm like
I
the
believe it.
cutest, cuddliest, nicest guy sitting here. And I remember being like, I'm with these guys, and the menu comes out, and I'm looking at the prices, and it was like 20 something bucks for a Coca-Cola or however many francs or whatever they were using. But it was like $20. And I remember being like, $20? This Coca-Cola gonna give me a massage? Like what kind of Coca-Cola is this? I was like, and everyone was looking around, everyone was cool. But I was like, this is not all right. And then I remember thinking, hey bro, you make pretty good money, you're making like 6 figures traveling the world. What's the problem? And then I remember hearing the Holy Spirit, that voice that always talks with me, is like, what's really wrong? And I was, it's expensive. And I'm having this dialogue, and it's, well, you have risen kind of as high as your physical gifts can take you. And I looked at the table with all these guys, and I remember thinking, man, this is the elite, expendables squad that I'm sitting here with. And my physical gift, the Bible says your gift will make room for you before kings. And I remember being kind of like, wow, my gift has made room for me, and it's taken me about as far as it can take me. And I'm here with all these absolute savages, but if one of us dies, we'll be replaced in 24 hours. Something will send another legit
Savage.
guy, like another savage, another freaking
Another
pipe hitter,
expendable.
another expendable, really. And
Yeah.
I remember kind of realizing that. And I remember being like, well, geez, I've spent my whole life trying to be this guy, this strong warrior dude. And I remember realizing in 2 seconds, like, who has power? You guys are all powerful, like you're strong men, but who has power? And I picture my client, this little flamboyant 160-pound guy. He's in his room, and he's at the Ritz-Carlton Paris, and
Yeah.
he's just in there having a good time. And we're down here working, doing a bunch of work, working all day, toiling under the sun. And I remember realizing in that moment, there's a difference between strength. Strength is with me. It's physical. It's necessary. It's important. And then there's a difference between power, and power has to do with your level of influence. This comes from your intellect. This comes from your work, the work that you've done, the lives you've been able to impact, the overall value of your contribution to humanity. And then I decided in that moment that I'd spent the first quarter of my life developing myself physically, and I'd spend the next quarter of my life pouring into the mental and spiritual aspects of my life, because those things, I can be everywhere while being in one place when I understand influence and the difference between strength and power.
So, did you, after that trip to Paris, and you're back home, did you give up being a bodyguard? Or what was your next step there?
No, things never evolved that quickly. So I went right back. No, I got right back, and I stayed the course. But so much of life, I think, is about being a good steward. So I just simply got serious. I shut off various forms of entertainment. Then I started listening to audiobooks. I started to focus on every minute I was in my car. Instead of listening to music, I was listening to other people who had solved problems that are way greater than anything I'd ever seen, in the form of audiobooks and YouTube videos, and started really pouring into myself, because I realized at the end of the day, if I'm going to get any kind of influence, it's going to be by the grace of God and the reality that no one, like, I don't have anything. I'm not a Navy SEAL. Like, if I was a Navy SEAL, I could do like Navy SEAL gum. If you chew the gum, you'll be a Navy SEAL. People be chewing there, making $100,000 a month of my Navy SEAL gum. I don't get to do that. SEAL homies, love you, but y'all can sell whatever you want. So I realized I had to become like an entrepreneur. I had to become smarter. When I opened my mouth, something needed to come out of value. That's when I went back and got my master's in psychology and forensic psychology, and really focused on developing myself. And it has paid off more than most investments I've ever made in my entire life.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's I tell you what, we go to Beaufort, South Carolina in February this year. We sat down with Jason Redmond and say, "You got a chewing gum on the market yet?"
Yeah. Called the Redmond Seal gum, boy. People be buying. I promise you, they'll be buying it. Shoot,
I
if
love
I was
that.
a SEAL, I'd be a millionaire.
I love it. I love it. Now, so I think you already told us, because one of my questions I had up here was, how are you going to deal with your demons
Mm,
being in that position. But you pretty much
yeah.
explained that through your
Well,
own self-confidence and the grace of God.
yeah, I mean, I, I mean, so I would give a more direct answer to that, and let me know if you ever want me to like cease fire, because I'm a long answer guy. So I hope
I'm
that's
good.
okay. Yeah, no. So I think when it comes to facing your demons, is you got to get to the bottom of it. And you need to uproot them, and you need to be very direct. Okay, so like these dark things in your life, awareness. The actually most of what psychology is in its counseling sessions is just bringing awareness to things, um, impacts them, and they begin to unravel. Like, oh my gosh, I've got this behavior. I don't like it. It's bad. It's not serving me. I'm noticing how it's having an impact, a negative impact. What's going to start happening underneath the surface on a psychological level is you're going to start to try to kind of work on that equation automatically just by starting to pay attention to it. But you have various levels of dealing with demons. You have things that you feel guilt around or shame around, and you have things that you know that 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 need to be dealt with. I think the worst thing you can ever do is run from them, hide them, repress them. I did a lot of life coaching when I got out of the Marine Corps for veterans that were dealing with PTSD. One of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest things that I would find is that a lot of it, a lot of the guys that had the worst cases of PTSD also dealt with childhood trauma that was very much undealt with. And the PTSD was a socially acceptable outlet for the fact that they're still pissed off or hurt or dealing with
Mm-hmm.
that trauma that was from earlier in their lives. And so learning how to process those things is huge. The more you tell a story, the more the emotions come out of the story. I don't want to say it becomes normalized, but the more you can process it in a healthy way. And then honestly, the grace of God. A lot of guys, that I dealt with just don't have the as robust of a system to help them manage trauma in life without the spiritual component, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a spirit, soul, and body, you are a three-part being. Things that are going to happen to you, especially when it comes to taking life and death, these are there's a spiritual element, there's a physical element, there's everything in between. It's like one of the richest versions of reality you can ever live. And that's another part of PTSD is coming back here. And everything is like so not rich
Mm-hmm.
and so mundane. And readjusting to that. So having that relationship with my Heavenly Father and being able to talk with someone and process those things and trusting that I'm in his hands and even having him guide me when I was pulling the trigger down there, um, was the ultimate form of what has ultimately kept me healthy. And it guided me
Yeah.
through PTSD. It guided me through war, drugs, PTSD, all of it to where I'm at now. But those are some suggestions.
Yeah.
I would say more directly.
Yeah. So that was, if I hadn't read your book, I think one of the next questions I would have for you is, and I guess it's not fair because I did read your book, and I know you. I've known you now for almost a year. Uh, but I guess my next question would be: so you've got this secret formula for success, don't you? Where'd that come from, and what is it? I want to get part of that.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that it's much of a secret. I wouldn't say that it's much of any type of secret, but I would say that I went through a phase of life where I read 300 self-help books and I started to notice a trend, right? And this, but I have an intense and extreme personality, so it's like 300 audiobooks and I was just digging, right? And a lot of it was running from a version of myself that was inadequate. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, I noticed the trends, I noticed the patterns, and then I remember looking over at my wife and being like, I know how to deliberately develop my reality. Like I understand deliberate reality creation. And she was like, okay. And I was like, now I just need to do it so someone will listen to me. And that was my moment as a young man where I was like, gosh, it sucks being young. Like I need to do some stuff. And so I started to put into practice many of those things, that I learned in those books and that formula that's in that book. And by the grace of God, and only by the grace of God and hard work, we've been able to achieve much more than I ever imagined,
Mm-hmm.
ever.
I tell you what, I think I said on the last show, I think you may be one of the most successful entrepreneurs I've ever met, which I'm as proud as I could be, as if we were lifelong friends. I love it.
That's
And
awesome.
I read a statement in your book when I was thinking about this question about the secret formula, and it kind of boiled down to this. This is one of your statements out of the book: is take a step of faith off the cliff of comfort of my current situation. Because it's easy to get, you go into a new job, you're always nervous. You're not really sure what to expect, what's going to be expected of you. But then when you master that, you get complacent, don't you?
Right.
It's the same thing with danger. Well, I've never been in combat like you have. I was in, I guess, my world of combat down in Colombia, and there was a $300,000 price tag on our head, and people said, "How did you deal with that?" Well, first of all, it's scary, and then you're thinking, "Well, that's all. I'm worth more than $300,000," because then you get cocky.
Yeah.
And then you don't sit
That's
around and
awesome.
worry about it. But what happens is you become complacent.
Mhm.
And this is Murph's theories. Okay. So
Let's go.
I think it goes right in line with what you say in your book, though. But that complacency leads to that comfort level where life's good. I don't need to do anything else.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. Byron has so much more than me. Why is that? I want what he has. Well, and then I find out how you got it. And if you're being complacent, it's like, I don't want to do that. I want somebody to give it to me. Well, what's better? You earn it or somebody gives it to you? I mean,
your level of maturity.
right.
You
And most guys are going to say, give it to me. I don't need to earn it, but when you earn it, you love it.
You earn when you earn it, you love it. And when you become a father, you understand that if I just give it to you, it might kill you. Like if I just give it to you without you developing the muscle, the internal, the software to handle this thing, it might kill you. I mean, I grew up with serving millionaires and billionaires since I was 21 years old. Since I was got out of the Marine Corps. I've seen more kids get ruined by their parents giving them everything they want than anything else in life. If I would have received the things I prayed for when I was 21, it would have killed me. I'm still barely getting dang strong enough to really, manage these things the way God would want me to, and that, and so, I thank him for the processes. I thank him for the way he answers our prayers. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just handing it to you, because while you're earning it, you're becoming the man that can maintain it. And you're becoming the type of individual that can bear up under the burden of the blessing. Because, homie, let me tell you, with that new level of success is going to come new challenges, is going to come new awareness, new enemies. You're honored by the level of your problems. Like you're honored by your adversaries in life. Like the problems you'll deal with at that level, you might complain about them, but then you'll hear yourself complain and be like, you know what? It's an honor I get to. David was honored by Goliath.
Yeah.
But but nonetheless, if you haven't gone through the valley, like if you didn't, I don't want to get too Bible-y, but like if you didn't go through the valley necessary to be able to earn that by the grace of God and with his guidance, then Goliath is just going to stomp on you if you didn't go back out there to tend your sheep and learn how to freaking sling stones. Probably slung 10,000 dang stones by himself with no help out there with thinking everyone forgot about him, thinking that crazy prophet made it up, thinking Jesus don't love him. You know what I mean? Like, but you know what? I guess he thought it was time to throw some stones, man. You know what I'm saying? And then this becomes a thing. So you have to spend that time to develop. Otherwise, you can die. I mean, look at lottery winners. Look at professionals that end up getting massive amplification. Athletes and singers, these people, massive amplification without growing the path.
Or movie stars. I mean, it could be anybody. I think we're all susceptible to it. Sometimes to our own success, but I think when you think you're the ones that attain that success solely by yourself, that's where a lot of your problems come from.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
And I had a good question here on my mind that just kind of tied in with that, and it just went right away.
It'll come back to you. You know how it is when your brain relaxes.
I was going. What I was going to tell you is my wife and I, we went to Atlanta for Christmas this year, and usually our kids come down here, but my oldest son's a doctor, and he was on call, and our youngest daughter's husband, he's got a new job, so he didn't have any time off yet. So we just went to Atlanta and spent the week with them. And all the way up there and all the way back, we're seeing the billboard signs for the Powerball lottery. 1.15 million, 1. I don't know what it was. And my wife and I, we kind of make a joke of it as we're riding along. So, okay, so if you get let's say it's 1.5 million after taxes, you're going to get 750 million. What would you do with that money? You know, and it just makes the time go by.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right. They've got shows on about how many of these lottery winners that have become multi-millionaires have just become paupers. Their families have become, especially their grandchildren who were given everything to, became addicted to drugs and were killed in car wrecks and different things.
100%.
And it just devastated their life. We've always heard that. Well, I always heard that old saying that money's the root of all evil, and you can't find love in money. I don't know. I guess that's true because I've never had a lot of money to find out if that's true or not. But I don't go hungry either. So I'm like the other good Lord provides.
100%. I think it's the love of money, which is the root of all kinds of evil. I've been actually studying that verse to really understand it. So yeah, it ends up coming out that the love of money is responsible for all kinds of evil. So it's a little less descriptive than we've heard over the years in church, but I've seen the same things. And it's really easy to start to think that money is your source for everything. If the one thing I would say that's been amazing about my journey is God's given me enough time to struggle to where I've realized I've seen the money come and go, where it's very unlikely that I would ever make that my God or my source, no matter how much of it I have, because I've been around people that I've watched, that have a lot of money, and I've watched, it happen, and my life has done it, and I've seen a lot of things. I like to think, I'll never say that I'm infallible to anything, but that's been one of the beauties of my journey, is it's given him time to really prove who he is in my life. That's protect from a lot.
So now you're doing this research, you're getting your education, you've got an experience in the military, and you've got a lot of experience as an executive protection, high-level bodyguard. What do you do next? What kind of business did you start, or what did you get into? Did you go work for somebody else, or did you start your own?
Yeah, so executive protection, West Coast, East Coast, I bounced back and forth. And in that mass shakeup, I worked for a number of different clients, every client demographic in the industry. Got to work in well over probably 80 countries. I stopped counting after a while. And then in 2017, a client said, "Hey, Byron, we want you to be our guy. We want to bring you in-house." And that was the launch of my business, Bravo Research Group, my own private security firm. And since then, that's been my primary endeavor when it comes to private security. So Bravo Research Group is full service. We do everything from uniform all the way up to corporate, high net worth families, celebrities, execs. And we also, now I'm managing a few other security firms in the realms of executive protection, disaster relief. When big disasters go in, we'll bring in teams that'll secure infrastructure and different things like that with Saber Defense team. And then the other aspect of my life is I'm a protector, and I believe that I'm designed to multiply protectors in the world. So Bravo Research Group also has a training division, which we run some of the top executive protection training in the world. One of the probably at least top 5, probably top 3 training organizations for guys that want to get into executive protection, from law enforcement, veterans, civilians, whatever your background is. And then I also run a civilian training company called the Protector Nation, where we teach all kinds of different things. We're there to make the world a safer place by helping good people become more dangerous. So that is my world. I'm a protector, here to multiply protectors, like white blood cells in the body of humanity. Let's go.
When I was putting my notes together for today's interview, I typically will limit it to a page and a half, a page if I can, but I got almost a page of stuff just of what you're doing. Holy cow. I mean, it's amazing. You didn't tell us about the podcast you got going.
Oh yeah, and then you mentioned something I should mention too at the beginning. You mentioned Sir Byron, so that and just so
Yeah.
that that makes sense to people,
Uh-huh.
that's because I'm a Knight of Malta, so I got brought into the Knights of Malta meritoriously here recently, and that's why it's Sir Byron down there, just so people aren't like, what's going on there? Uh,
Hey, he
but yeah,
makes me
no,
call
so
him sir. I don't know. I don't know what that's about. So,
yeah, yeah, no. So it's just fun. It's one of the coolest things that's happened by the grace of God. It's been such an honor working with them, doing humanitarian stuff all around the
excellent.
world and helping that get done. But um,
You've got,
podcast.
yeah, it looks like you got two of them. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, you did your research, man. I got the Executive Protection Lifestyle podcast, the Protector Nation podcast. One is the most listened to podcast in the private security industry for bodyguards, executive protection folks, close protection guys. And then the other one, the Protector Nation podcast, is civilians. It's for everyone to listen to. However, this year I'm going to fuse everything together and we're going to roll out a whole new podcast, which is the Man of Peace podcast. And it's just going to be all about all the things protection, close protection stuff, but also about values and Christianity and how to be a good dad, how to be a good husband, and how to be a man of peace. And
I love it.
um, blessed are the peacemakers because they'll be called sons of God. So this is where we're going
Absolutely.
this year, and it's going to be good. I'm excited for it. I'd love to have you on if you're up for it.
You want a decrepit old bald headed white fat guy? I'll be
Get
there.
out of here, man. Man, you're awesome. It's an honor.
Uh, you know what?
Murphs.
I used to say this as I got promoted up through the ranks at DEA is that title does not make you any more important than anybody else. You just have a different set of responsibilities. And I've tried to never take myself too serious. I mean, even when you're the big dog, when you're the director of a couple different places before I retired, that just means I have a responsibility now to make sure you have everything you need to do your job because I'm just an admin guy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'm not doing investigations. I'm not putting people in jail and that kind of thing. So if I never attain anything else, if I die and people say he was a humble guy, I take that as a badge of honor. It's
Well,
just
that's awesome.
nothing special.
You're
Um,
probably a good boss to have that because we all know from the military and law enforcement, doesn't the person up above you isn't always got that. God bless you, man. You probably that's an awesome outlook. That's the way we should be, man.
well, it's and when I became a cop, I never had intentions of moving up, maybe being a sergeant or maybe even making the captain. But at DEA, I was happy making cases, and it just opportunities present themselves. And I've talked offline about this. I think that when an opportunity presents itself, it might be God saying, "Hey, stupid, step through the door and see what happens."
Mm-hmm.
And I do,
Yeah.
and you ultimately end up at the highest ranks that you can go, and then He opens more doors for you. So,
Yeah.
uh, never in a million years, I probably shouldn't say this. I think I said it on the last show. I
Mm-hmm.
don't listen to podcasts. I
Mm-hmm.
have a podcast. I like
Yep.
doing a podcast. What I
Mm-hmm.
like is bringing people like you on, our law enforcement partners, or first responders, people that are out protecting their country and helping their fellow man. I love doing that. But I've tried to listen to other true crime podcasts that just they don't interest me. I guess I don't know. Uh, you
That's
think I'd
awesome.
go over and listen to them to maybe find other guests, but I don't have any shortage of guests, so I'm real happy about that.
That's there you go.
Um, now I looked up Bravo Research Group. You're the CEO,
Yes,
and you
sir.
build that as a boutique private security company in Southern California. What is a boutique private security company? Is that special? Does that mean specialized?
Yes, sir. So we do security at the speed of people's lives, right? So everything is super, super tailored to that individual's life. One day we might be going to soccer games at Whole Foods with folks with high net worth families. The next day we're running ops in and out of Haiti protecting orphans and doing things that are much more edgy. And so it's boutique in that we're we're not a large firm. We have a handful of our clients. We can solve problems all around the world. At any given time, I probably have guys operational in at least 2 to 3 countries, but everything is very, very much to exactly our whole goal is seamless security. So we want to integrate into our clients' lives, the look, the feel, be on brand as much as possible, and not make security the point, but make security the element of security, just like the emblem. The security helps you achieve your mission. You get hundreds of hours back having one of our security drivers that you're safe, productive, happy, etc. And that's how we like to integrate with people's lives.
If I were younger and single, it might be something that would interest me, but I'm not. So,
Yeah, I love it.
uh,
It's a good time, most of the time.
uh, Haiti. You mentioned Haiti. I've been there. Oh, that place is horrible, especially nowadays.
God, yeah, it is. God bless Haiti.
You're not kidding.
Dark place, a lot of darkness. Yeah, I can say probably not one of my favorite places, but some beautiful people there that trying to do some beautiful things, and it's an honor to be able to help those folks in
Yeah.
a place that's in such dire straits all the time. Like my whole life, Haiti's been in it. It's worse than normal, but yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. Um, yeah, your training series, Protector Symposiums. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so the Protector Symposium is an event that I do, and we'll see if I do it again. But each iteration was a multidisciplinary weekend with multiple of kind of the top instructors on various topics. So you might have a Tony Blauer teaching fear management and the spear technique. You'll have a Greg Douglas teaching how to fight inside of a vehicle, some one man structural movement clearing with a pistol, and you'll have like an Ed Calderon teaching like weaponology, like how to make most anything into a weapon so that you can be armed anywhere at any time. And so you'll go through we went through these weekends with presentations. The first day, presentations from the stage. Then the second 2 days, we would be out in the field training and doing the hands-on elements. And these were just awesome events. I used to do them annually. I got to 6 iterations. I might do one next year. We'll see. But under the Protector Nation, you can go back and watch all the presentations. And it's like under the Civilian Protector Project, under the Protector Nation, you can go back and watch all the presentations, everything. It's like 70 hours of content in there. You name them, they're probably in there. Mike Minone. We've just had so many instructors over the years, and it's been awesome. So that is primarily now just a library folks can go and watch. Yusuf Badu will teach behavioral profiling stuff. I should see if you want to do a module. So let's see. I'm sure you got some awesome stuff you can teach, Murph. Been around the block, so
Yeah, it's kind of old. As Pop's getting my kids and grandkids call me Pops. Pop's getting a little long in the tooth.
yeah, okay. Well, but yeah, so that's what it is now.
I'd be honored to come to one of your things. I'll be honest with you. And that leads to public speaking. You're available to speak at various events. So what events would you speak at, and what would some of your topics be?
Yeah.
Besides motivational, everything you do is motivational.
Well, thank you. So yeah, something I've been super passionate about is masculinity, healthy masculinity, and how we become strong to serve, and how that really leads to the most fulfilling life a man could live by the grace of God. Anything around veterans, transition, finding your new fight and purpose, this is kind of like my wheelhouse. And then, of course, anything having to do with security, right? So for corporate clients, how to live a safer pattern of life, situational awareness, and breaking that down so that it's effective. We do a lot of emergency management for certain corporate clients as well. So come in, teach you guys behavioral profiling, how to live a safe pattern of life in that area, and then we'll put together emergency management plans and kind of teach everyone those things as well. But masculinity, veteran stuff, transition stuff, and safety. Those are my three kind of major topics.
I like it. Now, so we've mentioned your book here, and that's Finding Meaning After the Military, and everybody, you can find it on Amazon, and I'll put it on the Game of Crimes website. So if you go to the book page on that website, there'll be a link that'll take you straight to Amazon. That's where I got my copy on Kindle. You also, do you still offer counseling?
This is something I stopped for a while, and it's coming back up quite a bit. In fact, I have a counseling call after we get done, which was I haven't opened it up, but I have taken on a few clients. So that's something I'm open to if there's like a really good fit. And I might actually this year roll out another product that's like taking a group of guys through a number, like a pipeline to help them get from point A to point B in their lives as it pertains to the things I'm talking about, purpose, developing into that man that, they need to be to serve everyone around them, and be recognized as such and whatnot by the grace of God.
Yep. This, what I'm getting ready to say, I probably should wait and say at the end, but because I think this is a good time to say it. So that's my podcast. I get to say what I want to, right?
Let's go.
Everything that I'm seeing, that I've read about you, that I've heard us talk about, I saw you speak last year in Beaufort, South Carolina. I wish that the slides in the background had been much clearer, because I think that would have driven your point home a lot more than it did. I had the same problem when I did my little talk up there, but hey, it's just one of those things, you get around it. But everything that I'm seeing is from a man who went and served his country for the right reason, to protect our country, to make us all safer. And then after his time in the military, he comes out, and I'm looking at all these different businesses and symposiums and 2 podcasts and a book. I know you got more books coming out, and your public speaking and the symposiums. And I mean, everything you've got going is to help us protect ourselves, is to help military and first responders who are coming out, who may be suffering from some mental issues, to look at it a different way, not sit around and feel sorry for yourself or think that the world owes you something because you went and did something heroic or you served your country. That, there's no higher calling in my book than serving your fellow man. I just believe that, and I always will. And I don't know that I'm serving a whole lot more, but I certainly am bringing a lot of people on here that do. And Byron, you're right there at the top of the list with all the stuff you have going on. I like your thoughts about things. There's a few sayings that I would like to bring out here that I pulled out of the book, and I just told Brian I was going to, but I didn't tell him what they were here. So read those, and I'll read each one and get your opinion on what, or maybe I'm not seeing something right. But the first one is, you are where you are because of the sum total of the decisions you've made. Yeah. To me, that says it all. I'm not stroking you just because we're here on the camera looking at each other. Whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, that's where you are. If it's a bad decision, hopefully you've dealt with it in a positive manner, and you don't make the same bad decision again.
And it should be a point of, well, it's a double-edged sword, like some people are super excited about it. Some people are super not excited about it, but it's a point of empowerment if you decide to take that control. Funny, quick story about it is it's one of my most famous pieces of content I've ever put together. And you've been making content since 2011. And there was one picture I posted, and it was like three black guys, a bailiff, a lawyer, a guy on trial, and a cop. And it was all 3 of them were black guys. And I said, choice over everything. I said, you will always be paid back a direct proportion of the quality of your choices and contributions. And man, the internet exploded. I lost my black card like 15 times. You're black. You're not even black. You're whitewashed. Victim of racism that doesn't know you're a victim of racism. And I'm like, what? How? What? I just thought, I'm like, I'm in this bubble. I'm like, I'm just living my life. And I thought, this is my truth. I'm just telling you, I think it'll help you. People are like, you're not even black anymore. Like, I swear, it was rough. And I was like, well, golly, I guess I'm fighting up against something. But anyways, it's the truth, whether you guys like it or not. You're there because you chose it. And if you want better, you can choose better. You just need to get higher quality information if you want to make higher quality decisions. And this is the game.
But you got to want it yourself, and you got to get off your lazy butt and do something about it.
100%. And ain't no one coming to save you. Your mama's going to love you forever, but ain't no one coming to save you.
I should have wrote that down. Okay, now the next one is, strength is good and sometimes necessary, but the power of our human intellect is second only to the power of Mother Nature and the power of God. It is. It is. These things, I'm not a deep guy, I'll be honest with you. It's for me to highlight the one thing I don't like about Kindles, if I've got your book in hand, I'll have
Yeah.
tabs all through it. A Kindle, I highlight
Mhm.
things and then I got to go back and search for them. It's a pain in the butt. But it,
Wow.
you're talking about strength versus power here, and they're not the same thing.
No.
It's the
Abs-
just give us a couple words on that if you can.
yeah, I
What's
think
the
it's a
difference
common
between strength and power?
yeah. So I think it's a common misconception, but I do think it's very necessary to understand both. And the difference between strength and power in a nutshell is one is local. A lot of men think that the point is to become physically strong and physically imposing and all these things. Like they miss the whole entire thing. You can only serve a group of people that are in your presence if you're physically dominant, which I'd like to try to be. But when you start to understand power, power has to do with your influence. Power has to do with the amount of human beings you can assemble around a cause and get motivated in a general direction. And power is how much masculine certainty you can acquire within a body of 100 people. You can change the whole entire world with when you can get people certain, unified around a vision. And this is really what moves our world around. And this comes from understanding how to harness your heart, your mind, and your mission and what you were brought here to do by the grace of God. And that's really when men start to rise to the occasion. And both of them are here to help you serve. And one of the differences in your maturity is when you acquire strength and power for yourself, you will end in ruin. Like I think 100% of the time. I've known too many millionaires and billionaires that live for themselves. And, they're sitting there getting audited by the IRS looking at me. And I'm just sitting here on my little laptop and they're like, you're happy. And I'm like on my little trip. And what's up, Adam? I'm like, and you'll find that, and or that have gotten everything and have everything in the world, and they're literally like, well, now what? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I guess we'll go do some good things for people and see how that feels. We've already done all the models and the drugs and the sports cars and the and then they end up starting massive charities and find that that's the best way to fulfillment. So strength and power, very important. Power is much more powerful than strength, for lack of a better term. But if you can curve these things into how you can serve people at higher levels, you will unlock the most fulfilling life imaginable by the grace of God. So that's what he's
Uh,
saying.
I love it. Yeah, that's why I put it on here. All right,
No,
next
thank you.
up. When we fail to learn the lessons that are presented to us through pain, we essentially experience the same result repeatedly, which causes
Mhm.
pain to get mixed with hopelessness, and the
Yep.
result of that is suffering.
Mhm.
And I said it in a recent another interview that, and it had to do with the Menendez brothers. I did a series on them on the Patreon side of Game of Crimes, and I hate the fact that some pretty people are getting involved in their case, and because they're giving them hope. And now, if they don't get released from prison, they're sentenced to life without chance for parole. Now everybody's wanting them to be released. If they don't, what do you think happens to their hope? They've just lost hope. And when you don't have hope, the opposite of hope is despair.
Mhm.
So I love what you're talking about here. I remember reading something in there about you were using exercise as pain or as an example of pain. But if you don't have that pain, you don't see growth.
Yeah. And pain and fear have turned out to be some of the most important feelings and like target indicators and some of the most important components of my life. Like if I can go into pain and choose to face things that are difficult or painful, this is where all the growth is. Like if I can acknowledge the pain of a defeat, but figure out like, hey, I'm not going to waste this pain. There's a lesson here. This is where all the growth is. I go to the gym and I seek pain and I submit to this process of purification and development. This is where all the growth is. And it seems to be this thing. Like, what's the thing I'm most afraid to do right now that I'm procrastinated most about? I probably should just go do that thing. And that's where all the growth is. And so pain, fear, I facing my fears, that tends to be where all the growth is. And so I find I've learned so much more from pain than I've ever learned from pleasure. And so using pain as an instructor, as a mechanism to help you get better is just part of the process. So I talk about finding the purpose within the pain to unlock the potential in any process. And you start to realize, especially if you have your Heavenly Father, like it's all love. Like what you have to go through it hasn't destroyed you. And if you have the right perspective on it, you realize it's all love and it's all there to serve you. And it's amazing. And if you don't learn the lesson and you got to take copious amounts of extra laps because you're not getting it, that when pain starts to turn into mix with hopelessness and it turns into suffering, that's even worse. But you can still step out of it, I'm pretty sure, if you just get your mind right, get the right perspective.
Right. Which is, one of the things that your book, I think, is very good at doing, at least helping you to give you an idea, a roadmap of where to go. Here's your tools. Here's the issues. Here's some tools to help you out. Get off your butt. There's people here ready to help you. I like this next one. There's only 2 more, so I won't bore you to death with reading your book to you.
This is cool. It's been a while since I've been in there. It's cool to see what's coming out of it.
Well, this one, you can't unsee what you've already seen, and you can't unknow what you already know. Isn't that the truth?
Oh, yeah, it sure is. You can only build on it. You got to find a direction to build, man. Sometimes find a good direction to build on it.
You can, and that's, it all comes, not to simplify, because I certainly am not at the level you are, but it starts with you getting off your butt.
100%.
You got to realize that you're in a crappy place and you're the best person to help you out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to go it alone. Would you agree?
100%. You're the only person. This is an exercise in sovereignty. This is your exercise in little G Godship, homie. Like that's how I tell guys, like, no, you are the one common denominator in every situation in your life. No one can make you do it. They can beat you. They can do whatever they want. They can't make you actually lose hope. They can't. You should read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, one of my very favorite books. When he's in those internment camps and all that, then he's talking about how he still was able to choose purpose and choose things while he's, in an internment camp. The reality of this life is, and people give away their power all the time, or they try to, but this is your exercise in sovereignty and lordship over your life. You'll only get as far as you choose to go, as much as you choose to learn, and as much as you choose to develop. And you were born naked in a room full of a bunch of people who love you, but that love still don't even save you. At the end of the day, your mama might love you, but you gonna have to pay your own bills at some point, my man.
That's right.
So it's you and God, and that's all it ever been, man. So that's the game.
I love it.
And you can't run from it. It'll find you.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll catch up with you eventually. Okay, and one more, and this, I think this was my favorite one. And this is a little bit lengthy, so just bear with me. I'm a product of the West Virginia school system, so bear with my reading here. Okay, many people are programmed not to believe in themselves and not to own the things they love. So your first inclination may be to discredit what it is you love or some of your good ideas by telling yourself to be realistic. This is fear talking. The voice that discourages you from doing what you want to do authentically is going to try to disguise itself as logic, reason, or wisdom, but it's fear. It's truly fear. So I love this. Well, don't overthink this. The batter is an unavoidable part. Did I get that right? The batter is an unavoidable part of the process, and it's part of everything great that can be done under the sun. Find your passion and go after it so that your purpose may unfold. Man, I got to tell you that people will instill doubt in you when you're successful.
Yes.
Don't they?
Always. They can't help it. And you can't even get mad at them for it because they are where they are. And the worst part is so many of them just love you. They just don't want to see you get hurt. They're dead serious. But here's the kicker. They're dealing with you from where you are, right? And I'm going to try not to get too crazy and give you too long of it. But like my best friend that laughed in my face when I told him I wanted to join the Marine Corps and said I couldn't do that and that'd be impossible for me. He loved me, and he was looking at chubby little friend zone fat kid Byron and looking at a Marine and being like, he could never be a Marine. And he wasn't, Like, you know what I mean? My other buddy that laughed at me when I said something else, he knew me, who I was on that day. This is
Mhm.
the thing. God's put something in your heart that's going to demand that you become a better man, going to demand that you evolve. This version of you is going to have to die 100 times on the journey to get there anyways. And so, like, they're all not wrong. Even Jesus could do no miracles in his hometown because everybody was like, yo, isn't this just the carpenter's son? So I tell you this to tell you, the people around you, God bless them, never rely on them to validate a dream that they've never been given. That's the
Mhm.
first thing. That was your responsibility that was given to you divinely to bring into this world. And then the second thing is, what were you saying with that quote was it was about purpose. It was about people around you, but what was I'm sorry, that the beginning line of it again?
Many people are programmed not to believe in
Oh,
themselves and not to own the things they love.
yeah. And the other part I think that's the most difficult thing in this life is when you close your eyes, I believe pretty much everybody's got something they believe that they're here to do or want to do, would like to do, or think would be really cool. And we just don't go after it. And I think it's one of the greatest tragedies
Right.
of this life. And there's so much, I think humanity as a whole would be so much farther along if people were trained. Hey, this is your task. It's your responsibility to figure out how to bring this into the world, because I believe that that is something God put on the inside of you. And now that I've done it a couple times, now that I've realized that probably what you think is too great for you to achieve, if you actually, by the grace of God, went after it and started asking him how to achieve it, you would probably achieve it within the next I'd say 5 years tops. And you would
Mhm.
actually realize that that was just a present purpose. And you have no idea what your destiny is because this thing takes on a life of its own. And you'll end up doing that like 3 or 4 times over the next decade because that's what has happened to me. Now I'm like, man, I never thought that I would have the #1 podcast in our space. I achieved that in 2 years. I never thought that I'd be able to do a lot of these things. And and now I'm like, geez, I have no idea what my destiny is. I just know that if I'm faithful enough to go after what he puts on the inside of my heart, not ask how, just make sure I know the why and be diligent every single day. There's no telling of what someone can do if they're surrendering to the altar, like if they're surrendering to making progress in a general direction every single day of their life by the grace of God. It's
Yeah.
just, we're capable of a lot more than we ever dreamt. But most people, many are called, few are chosen, because
Yep.
99% of people talk themselves out of it
Yep.
because they don't know whose they are and they don't know where their real identity is.
There's a lot of people. I'm sure you've had a lot of people say, I always wanted to join a Marine Corps. I always wanted to be a Marine. I always wanted to be in law enforcement. Well, why didn't you?
Yeah.
Were you making too much money? Would your wife not let you? Were you afraid? I mean, that's being afraid that's actually a gift because that might be surpassing what your limitations are. And
Oh,
heaven
yeah.
forbid you get in that position and get one of your friends hurt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this has been fantastic. I highly recommend this book, everybody. It's Finding Meaning After the Military, and like I said, I'll put it on the Game of Crimes website with a link straight to Amazon. Can it be ordered through your website?
Yes, it can. You can find it byronrogers.com, byronrogersmotivation.com. Go to the same place.
I found 4 websites for you. I
Did
got
his
Byron.
homework.
I got ByronRogersMotivation.com, ProtectorNation.com, ExecutiveProtectionLifestyle.com, and EPSpecialist.com, the League of
Yeah.
Executive Protection Specialists.
Yeah.
Byron is all over social media. I did not find you on Instagram. I don't know
Yeah.
if
I
that was,
recently got, got banned.
or you're in Instagram jail.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll see if it comes back. I had over 200,000 followers on Instagram up until the 7th, the day after the election.
Okay.
God bless
Uh,
him. God bless
yep.
him.
You can find Byron on YouTube at Byron Rogers or Byron Rogers podcast, on X at Byron Rogers, on Facebook at Byron Rogers, on LinkedIn, which we've linked in there, Byron Rogers. And I just want to say this: we're having a good time. I love this guy's his personality. I love his motivation, his positivity. He is exactly today as he was back in February when I first met him up in South Carolina. I don't think you've ever met a stranger, to be quite honest with you. Uh, the
Thank you.
book, The book is a guide to get you started. It's not the cure-all, okay? And don't think you have to go this alone. Byron and his organization will help you find somebody to work with. If you're interested in doing any of this, do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. And once you do it for yourself, then you're doing it for your family and your children. It just kind of exponentially grows from there. But I want to say, if you've got nobody else to call, in our country, we have a suicide and crisis lifeline. You dial 988. That's all. 988. You can dial it. You can text it. That number is manned 24/7, 365. You heard me say it on other podcasts. I'm going to continue to say it because we need to be looking out for each other. When you call, if that person that answers the phone, if they're not the one to help you, they will put you in touch with somebody that can help you. If you're considering suicide, please, please, please call 988. Call whoever you think can help you. Get the help you need. We've got to stop this, especially within our first responders and our military. These are the people that have sacrificed their lives. Some of them have sacrificed limbs, arms and legs or sight or ears or whatever it might be to protect you and me. And we can't take a few minutes to figure out how we can help them. We got our priorities are screwed up and we're not looking at it like that. So, Byron, before I let you go, man, any parting thoughts you want to leave with us?
Well, parting thoughts would just be, life is fast and slow at the same time. I think the only thing that I really think makes it really much different is whether you're showing up the way that you're showing up to your best ability as often as you can by the grace of God, and you're doing at the end of the day. If I was going to go back to that moment when I realized I was dying or I maybe was dead, all that went through my mind was my relationships and did I live purposeful? Did I live a meaningful life? And those are the two things that I focus on these days. So those would be the two reasons I exist, is to help people to focus on really living meaningful lives that, hopefully bring God glory and that they enjoy their relationships while they have them. And they make more meaningful ones like this. It's just the best stuff. So
yeah,
God is good. That's what I got.
Absolutely, brother. I couldn't have said anything better myself. And it's again, we kind of beat this to death when we first started, but it's a true honor to have you on here. But I'm still getting chill bumps here.
Likewise.
Talking to you 2 hours later. Looking forward to seeing you in South Carolina again this year in February. And for those of you, if you're interested, Google Corps Medical Group Military Appreciation Weekend 2025. And this is about 3.5 day event in Beaufort, South Carolina, put on by Sid Gordon, who owns Corps Medical Group. It's designed as a family event. There's a lot of shooting. There's archery. There's self-protection. There's jiu-jitsu. There's what else? We got concerts coming in this year. The food is unbelievable. Good Southern style cooking.
Lots of giveaways, thousands. I want to say hundreds of thousands. He gives a lot of cool stuff away. I got a gun last time. What's up?
Well, and I think all the speakers, we all got a gun. Although
we did.
I haven't gotten mine yet. I called the guy in Kissimmee, and he's looking into it. So
he's looking into it. God bless him.
Yeah. But it was, it's just one of the most motivational weekends I've ever seen in my life. I'm excited. Can't wait to go again. So check that out. When you Google that, you'll see a link to Eventbrite, and that's where you go to get your tickets. So, brother, God bless you for everything that you've done for our country, that you continue to do, for your interest in serving others, and especially our heroes in our country, whether, studs and studettes, as well as our unsung heroes, and that's our families that support us while we go out and do the things that we think are exciting, that everybody else just thinks is stupid. So God bless you, man. I can't wait to see you again.
Well, thank you, Murph. God bless you too. Thanks for having me. It's such an honor.
All right, listeners, you can tell I'm still awestruck. I mean, I've been fangirling now for 2 episodes with Byron here. Thank you for continuing to come back to Game of Crimes. Check us out on YouTube. If you're listening to this on audio, please go over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button for me. I've got people that are working with me, like Mr. Byron Rogers, to try to help me grow things. Him and Nick Kumalatsos and other people's names that I can't pronounce. But do what you can to support your friends. Join me here next week for the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, and that's the Game of Crimes. God bless you. See you next week. Well, unfortunately, that's it for this week's episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. Thank you, folks, so much for taking the time to see and hear some of the best true crime content you can find anywhere. None of this would be possible without your support. If you didn't know this already, Game of Crimes is now on YouTube. Just type in Game of Crimes Podcast in the YouTube search bar. You can send me your comments on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or to our email address, which is gameofcrimespodcast@gmail.com. Our website, it's gameofcrimespodcast.com. That's where you'll find all our episodes, books written by our guests, merchandise, and more. If you're looking for even more content, now go over to patreon.com/gameofcrimes and sign up. There you'll find several bonus episodes each month, ranging from serious and current topics to some silly and fun events. And you can even get early access to each week's interviews before they drop on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can even subscribe for free and hear the first 5 minutes of each episode, and that's to help you decide if you'd like to spend some of your hard-earned cash to hear more. That's patreon.com/gameofcrimes. To all our guests here on Game of Crimes, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. I mean that sincerely. Thank you for your service to your communities, your countries, and for taking the time to tell us about your adventurous lives. May God bless and protect all the men and women in law enforcement, our military, and all of our first responders. And you know what? This goes for all of our listeners as well. Thank you for your continued support. And just one last thought here. It's okay for us to have different ideas and different opinions, but it doesn't mean we can't continue to be friends. All right, my final thank you. Thanks for joining me again to play the biggest, the baddest, the most dangerous game of all, the Game of Crimes. I'll see y'all next week.